another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I am here, the host, as usual, with Zoo and Peebush. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man. Got football coming up week from tomorrow.
Yes,
I
sir.
am excited, dude. It's about damn time. It's been a rough 6 weeks or so without any major sport besides baseball. So no hate there, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah, there's a reason why, because baseball is a mediocre sport, and we need some real sports back in the football world, baby. And fantasy football is back, baby. Can't wait, man. Can't wait. So this is the last week running for NFL next week. Oh, my Lord. We got a flash flood warning in New York City right now. Flood warning in New York City.
Holy cow.
That's an emergency broadcast right there.
What hurricane is that? Ida? I don't know which one is that.
Oh, boy. It's wet outside right now. It's wet.
I hope so. If you're getting flash flood warning.
It is storming right now outside of New York City, but what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, fantasy football, baby. I just had a draft, and my team is back with the vengeance, baby.
All right.
Yes, sir. Well, we're going to be talking about fantasy this year or today. The guys had some players that, if you still got a couple of drafts coming up, you can look over these guys or maybe look into free agency. But Peebush, I want to start with you, man. What are some top guys that you would go for in fantasy?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's tough. I mean, this year it's really interesting because I think the last couple of years we've seen a lot of running backs that the tier level it just drops immediately. So I think a lot of people will always say that first 2 rounds you go running back, even in a full point PPR. You have the likes of McCaffrey, Saquon, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry. I think some people might be passing on Zeke, though, this year, but I don't know why. I got him. I know Zoo's going to agree with me here. Zeke is going to have a big year. Unfortunately, on my team, I have Zeke and J.K. Dobbins. One of the two is down for the year. Wasn't able to get Gus Edwards as it was an auction draft. But Zeke, man, I'm very high on him. He's had slowly declining numbers pretty much since his rookie year. And I think he does need a full bounce back. If Dak can stay healthy, the Cowboys and Zeke himself, they both really don't have any excuses to not perform. I mean, they have decent O-line. Their defense is the way it is. I think we know that. But their offense is a straight juggernaut, man. And if Zeke is at the level that he's played at, especially at the beginning of his career, I have him finishing as possibly a top 3 back this year. I think he could break through if he can stay healthy. And if Dak's playing well, if they can keep that passing game going, man, he's going to be a top 3 running back this year. So even in a full point PPR, I know he's not a beast out of the backfield like McCaffrey is, but you got to get him, man. You got to get him mid-first round. I think he might even drop to 6 or 7 in some leagues. Really just depends on the size of your league, full point PPR or not. But, man, he's my running back that's not top 3 on ADP right now, but you have to get him on your team this year, man.
Man, absolutely agree, man. Zeke, that boy has gotten me multiple championships. 3 championships because of Ezekiel Elliott and the regression to me. He had an off year last year. Like you said, mainly because of Dak Prescott being out, no true quarterback. The offense is abysmal, so Zeke will be back with a vengeance. But I'm looking at the draft board right now, and, man, that second round, this is the vital round in fantasy drafts because if you mess up that second pick, it's over, man, because first pick is easy. It's pretty default. You take one of the stud running backs. If you don't get one, maybe you get a Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, one of those guys. You take a stud receiver. But the second round, it gets really, really tricky this year because I think it depletes pretty fast this year, man. Pretty fast in the second round. And one of the picks I would love as a second round draft pick is Najee Harris.
Interesting.
Yeah, Najee Harris, man. Yes. As a Pittsburgh Steelers running back, obviously their O-line, not the same that the traditional O-line of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but when they had Le'Veon Bell and even James Conner, when just anyone could run behind that O-line and get buckets. But they took him as a first-round pick. He's going to be a true workhorse back. In college, he started off as a receiver. Like he could catch the football. Yeah. So being a dual threat, being able to run the football and catch the football, just based off of volume, he'll get 20 touches a game. And even if he's not even efficient, he can get 70, 80, 90 yards a game just by pure volume. So I think Najee Harris is just such a safe bet that he gets you a consistent amount of points every week just based on yards per game. Outside of that, he doesn't even need to get touchdowns to be relevant because if you look at that second round, like I know Sean loves his boy Antonio Gibson. Yeah. Man, I ain't sold, man.
You're not sold?
No. He's very talented, but, man, I'm a fan of the Washington football team. Like Ryan Fitzmagic could be Fitztragic or Fitzmagic. So week to week, I don't know what he's going to do. Antonio Gibson got one season of sample size, and like he was actually pretty efficient just based on touchdowns last year. He put up double-digit touchdowns. That's impressive, but repeating that, good luck, Antonio Gibson.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, because I don't think he's a true workhorse running back. So Antonio Gibson, not going to be on any of my fantasy teams, man. Not going to be on any of them. None of them.
That's crazy.
If he drops third round, welcome to the squad. But he's gonna be on second round.
Absolutely.
If he's gonna be on second round, I will be getting no shares of Antonio Gibson.
Well, I mean, the one that might fall. If you had a late first round pick and you got an early second round pick, the guy I'm eyeing, if I'm in that situation, is Jonathan Taylor. I think if he slips that far, if you're not in like a dynasty league, he's probably going to fall into the early second round, because if you're in a dynasty league, he's going to go earlier. He's a young guy. Stud running back. He's 22. He's behind arguably the best offensive line in the league at Indianapolis. That's a guy I'm eyeing. I think he's going to have a hell of a sophomore year. I don't think he's going to slump. They have way too much talent on that offensive line. Quentin Nelson and Anthony Costanzo, all that. I mean, they're ridiculous. But Najee Harris, I agree with you. I think he's going to be good. I think a lot of people might be hesitant to maybe get a rookie running back just because of what Clyde Edwards-Helaire had last year.
They're different players. He's different. He's built different bigger. Players.
That's fine, but it's drafting that rookie running back with your first round pick. I mean, if Najee Harris, if he goes 9th overall, I mean, sometimes you're just stuck in a corner and that's all you got. I would argue that I'd take Jonathan Taylor.
You can
take Jonathan Taylor before
you can get him early second though.
I know, but I would take Jonathan Taylor over Najee.
Jonathan, I think they're the same tier, because I don't know about you, but I'll put them in the same tier.
I think Najee's a little higher.
Really?
Yeah, because I think the only thing that's going to stop Najee is how. Yeah, I think the only thing that's going to stop Najee is his offensive line, because it's not that good.
And Jonathan's is the best. So that's and I know that Hines has a pretty big role to play, catching out of the backfield. He was a beast. Him and J.D. McKissick are kind of similar players in that sense, for Indianapolis and for Washington. They each have their stud running back, and then they got a secondary guy who's just a monster out of the backfield catching-wise. But look, Zoo, speaking of CEH, I think he could have a bounce-back year, but he's also probably the hardest starting running back to predict this year, because he's 5'7", and I think you mentioned you don't like him because of his size alone.
Yeah, he just doesn't look like a workworkhorse running back.
Yeah, I agree.
Traditional workhorse.
Yeah,
Austin
he looks like an Austin Eckler, man. Small little dude that catch the little football, man.
But Eckler's a monster in fantasy,
yeah,
right?
One good year.
And I think he'll bounce back.
He had one good year, Austin Eckler.
Sure. Yeah. I still wouldn't mind having him on my team, especially with Herbert behind the helm right now. But I think CEH is really going to come down to whether Reed uses him enough, because their scheme last year, he was in and out of games. I know he had a couple injuries there. Unfortunately, he was my first round draft pick last year, which I'm sure I've mentioned many a time. And he sucked for me, so I didn't pick him this year. But I got to think that if they decide to use him in the way that they could, right? I think they need to use him out of the backfield. They need to throw him the ball more. I think they just need to use him in space. I mean, that offense is so good in the passing game that they can't not take advantage of having a good young running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If Andy Reid realizes that and uses him, he could end up being a top 5 running back this year if they use him right, because of how good their offense is. You can't guard if CEH is popping off. You can't guard him, Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's just impossible already with that team, let alone if they have a stud young running back. So he's the hardest to project, but it might be worth it to take a shot on him. Probably late second round, early third round, I think is when he'll end up going, just because of the thinness at running back this year.
Yeah, he has the best, I would say, value this year, just because of how last year he was drafted as a first rounder, and because of his disappointment, you could get him second or third round, easily second round, because I got him second round in one of my drafts. I reached for him because out of all the running backs, he was the only one left on the board that I wanted on my roster. So he's probably the best value with the most upside, because he's in that KC offense. If he gets goal line touches and gets multiple touchdown opportunities, he's going to be money in the bank, because KC's offense is going to give him so many chances. But Andy Reid last year, what they did with Mahomes is Mahomes just chucks the ball in to a Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, DeMarcus Robinson, just one of those receivers, and he didn't get the opportunity because CEH at the goal line, he wasn't that good last year. So, he didn't really get the opportunity. So, hopefully he gets a little redemption year this year because I got my fantasy team as a second RB. Second RB. If he turns out to be had Ezekiel Elliott and CEH as my first two picks. So
that's a solid combo.
Yeah, he's got the biggest upside this year as far as draft value position because second, third rounder, potential to get first round value. He's up there this year. I totally agree.
Where are you guys on Saquon Barkley?
I'm out.
Yeah, because it's the year after the injury.
Yeah,
dude. I just don't feel confident drafting him in the first round. And when you draft a first rounder, you need confidence in that pick. And every time I see Saquon, I'm just like, that injury bug is still nagging, man. He's not even confirmed for week 1 yet. Like I think he's gonna play, but who knows right now? It's such a catastrophic season-ending injury. So Saquon Barkley, but if you get him, if you see him drop to if you're 10-11. I can't pass him.
He's not dropping that far.
Oh, he has dropped in the drafts. Yeah.
He didn't drop in the couple I've been in, but I think
average ADP is around 9 right now.
Is it really? They moved him up. Okay, they moved him back.
Yeah.
That's fair. He must be playing week 1 then.
That's true. If he's not, but Zoo, you could make the same argument that people probably had the same. And you were a beneficiary of this. Adrian Peterson had the same situation. I'm not comparing that. He's had as good of a career as AP had up to that point, but people had the same doubts about Adrian Peterson coming off of his ACL injury. Granted, that was even faster than Saquon's.
Yeah,
and he still popped off. And I would argue that Saquon has the same level of health and build that Adrian Peterson had. He has the ability to come back from an injury like that. Will he perform at the same level? Probably not. Not that what Adrian Peterson said, let alone what Saquon has done. Once again, Zoo, if he's fallen that far, that could be, again, one of the best value picks in the draft. Absolutely, because we know what he can do.
And you have the opportunity to get 2 backs, just in case. If you get Saquon late, you get an Aaron Jones or a Nick Chubb, a swing pick, and those guys are pretty much 3-down running backs on their teams right now. So,
speaking of,
my God, the volume there is crazy.
Speaking of 3-down running backs, I'm kind of high on Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon
because I think they're going to lean on him a lot, not with Joe Burrow getting injured.
And
he's coming back from his injury.
No Gio Bernard, which is huge because Gio Bernard could play. He's really, really productive. Every time he starts and gets over 10 carries a game, he gets double-digit fantasy points because he can catch the football. He's great in the red zone. He's a strong running back. Gio Bernard to the Buccaneers. Damn, Tom Brady got another weapon now.
Wealth on wealth, as usual.
Man, they got 3 backs, man, that they can use, man. It's Fournette, Ronald Jones, and Giovanni Bernard. That's incredible, man. But the Buccaneers, man, absolutely stacked out of their mind right now. But man, go ahead.
What about receiver?
Receivers, man, the receivers this year, they're going early. Obviously, last year, the big flyer was Stephon Diggs, obviously, because he had the regression the year before. He went late 5th, 6th round, and then he went with Josh Allen and became a wide receiver 1. So, he's going really, really high right now. So he's got his values already built in. And I'm not a fan of DK Metcalf going this early. DK Metcalf, I will not own a single DK Metcalf because he is going late 2nd round. His productivity per touch is very similar to AJ Brown. They don't get that many catches, but when they get the ball, they just get their yards after catches is absolutely insane. So their efficiency is so high. But for me, at the wide receiver position, I want targets. I want targets and as many receptions and as many possibilities possible to get as many yards as possible. Because just having that efficiency year over year, man, that is hard to do. But for me, man, I had this guy on my team last year, man, and I believe in his talent. Justin Jefferson, man. Justin Jefferson, this dude is unbelievable. Last year, he had 1,400 yards, and he was even the number 1 option with Adam Thielen getting majority of the targets and all the touchdowns. Adam Thielen got double-digit touchdowns last year. Adam Thielen was the red zone target because he played with Kirk Cousins for multiple years. I feel like Justin Jefferson at the second half of the year, Kirk Cousins got way better connection with him, and man, Justin Jefferson put up one of the most historic rookie seasons of all time. Yeah. And this year you get Justin Jefferson in the 3rd round. in the third round, man. Early third, mid,
running backs.
Early third, mid third, like maybe you're in a dumb league, get him in late third, but in the third round, Justin Jefferson is as safe as you can get as a position of talent and opportunity, because at the second half of the season, got double-digit targets consecutive weeks, man. So, man, the volume is there, the talent is there.
Yeah.
So, and that all, like, my God, like Justin Jefferson in the third round is a fantastic pick.
Yeah. If you can get him in the third round, I mean, he's ridiculous, dude. I mean, he's so young, too. Once again, we don't know what type of league y'all are playing. I mean, if you're in a dynasty league, he's going way earlier. You know, he's one of those guys, first one off the board in a dynasty league. I saw him in one league getting, you know, placed ahead of Devontae in that sense, because his future value versus if Rodgers is done this year, you know, what are you going to do with Devontae, right? You know, if you got to hold him for a couple of years, is he going to be the same player worth the amount that you're paying? But Zoo, I agree with you. I think he's the best young wide receiver. I don't really have a specific one that I'm looking at. I think that, you know, there a lot of these wide receivers, the only one that can really stick out, I think CeeDee Lamb could take a jump this year as long as he comes back from COVID protocol. Zoo, I know you're high on CeeDee Lamb pretty much all the time. For me, though, I'm actually interested in the Rams wide receiving core. And I know that it is not – this wouldn't be for your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, in my opinion. I think you want one of these two guys to end up being your flex. And I'm talking about Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, because they've always been with Jared Goff there, man. They couldn't throw the ball down the field. I mean, they never threw the ball down the field. Josh Reynolds, I think, had some of their longest catches. Otherwise, it was always yards after catch. Matt Stafford, man, I think he could end up getting that offense to where McVay wants it to be. They have solid running back room. If Cam Akers can come back healthy, they got Darrell Henderson there too. They brought in Sony Michel. These wide receivers are going to get a lot of targets between each other. I don't think you would use them, you know, within your first 3-4 rounds. But if they're slipping to the 5th round, definitely try and pick up at least one of them. Try and get them in your flex position, because I think they could end up having pretty big years, especially if they can just move the ball down the field quicker. And that's one of the quickest NFL offenses. So they're only going to be better, I think, personally, with Matt Stafford. Zoo, I know you're not the biggest fan of Matt Stafford, but look, I also like Allen Robinson. That's a little bit of a hard pick right there. But now that he has, you know, more consistent quarterback play, and he has a solid number 2 option in Darnell Mooney who stretches the field, it's gonna be harder for teams to just put a double team on Allen Robinson and know that the Bears have nobody else to throw the ball to. So, you know, there's a couple out there. Zoo, I completely agree with you. I think DK is way too high right now. I personally wouldn't spend that much on him. I don't really like a Mike Evans pick this year with Chris Godwin. I mean, look, you can pick them if they're there and it's a good value pick, but don't go out of your way to get them. They just have way too many weapons, and they're not garnering as many targets as they would if they were the clear-cut number 1 with no real number 2 on their team. So him and Godwin, I know they both had breakout years 2 years ago, great years last year, champs, but maybe stay away from taking them earlier than you think you should. Just kind of a gut pick right there. But it's just kind of all over the place with wide receivers this year because everybody's scrambling to get running backs because they're so short. So you're just kind of seeing which wide receivers are there. If you can get Devontae or Tyreek, though, props to you, man, because you know what they're going to do.
You know why I think DK Metcalf is a guy that doesn't get a lot of targets, or he's just not profitable? I think Tyler Lockett is more of a target for Russell Wilson when they're playing. And I also think one guy, and Nick, we can maybe transition to the sleepers, Brandon Ayuk. I think it's Ayuk.
I got him on mine.
He showed out a little bit last year. He kind of messed me up a couple of times because they went more to a running game because Jimmy G got hurt. But he showed out, and I put him on a couple of reels. He was jumping over guys. He was doing a lot of athletic prowess. He's a guy I think that's going to step up over Debo because Debo's perennially, like, he's always hurt. So
dude, he's more of a running back too.
Yeah,
Debo.
6 foot, I think 225. Like, yeah, he shit like a running back. So
I mean, he's my number 1 in my dynasty league right now. Brandon Ayuk is my number 1 dynasty wide receiver.
He's gonna get some targets.
Yeah, he's going to get targets, and you're holding him for a couple of years, right? You're hoping that he, you know, with him and Trey Lance coming up together, they could ball out, man, because I don't know. If they can get some consistent quarterback play, and I think that's a big if, similarly to the Bears, that's where those guys are going to flourish, man, because we know that their running game can open up their passing game in San Fran. And
Facts.
as long as Trey Lance or Jimmy G or whoever's starting can step up and make the throws, Ayuk could easily have a 1,200-yard season. Easily. No questions asked.
Yeah.
Wow, Brandon Ayuk, 1,200-yard season. That means
Pick him, Zoo. If he falls,
he's a steal in the fourth round. Then he's going fourth, fifth round right now. So
I think he's a steal personally.
But man, oh man, dude, this is the steal of the draft right now. Man.
Okay,
you get him in the 9th or 10th round.
I know what you're gonna say,
and he's a household name, but it's Antonio Brown.
Yep.
Antonio Brown is the steal of the draft, man. This dude is still the most talented receiver on the Buccaneers. On the Buccaneers. Like, this guy, this reminds me of the Dallas Cowboys situation last year when they had Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and then they drafted CeeDee Lamb, man. I'm just like, man, why are you going to take Michael Gallup or Amari Cooper when you get CeeDee Lamb in the hundreds? Like, legit, you get him in like the freaking 10th or 11th round, and he has higher talent, and he might, after a couple more weeks, he gets to mesh with Dak Prescott, man. Like, oh man, he can really get those targets up. So, man, oh man, CeeDee Lamb could take over as the number one spot, and I feel like Antonio Brown with the Tom Brady connection, it can happen again because Tom Brady loves AB, and you get AB in the 9th, 10th round, and if one of those Tampa Bay receivers get injured,
exactly,
top 10 receiver, easy.
I agree.
Yeah,
easy, because, man.
When I'm talking about the two Bucks, Godwin and Evans, because you're drafting them expecting them to be at a number one level. If you're getting Antonio Brown in the 9th or 10th round, man, that's like a third wide receiver. That's a flex guy that you rotate in based on, unless he's obviously doing the production that you're talking about that he could have, Zoo. I agree with you, man. I paid $4 for him in an auction draft. That was nothing for his value. Brandon Ayuk, $22 because he's younger, right? But if there is a guy on the Bucks I'm picking, it likely would be Antonio Brown just because of his value alone. So that's a good pick, Zoo. But I got one sleeper for you. Marvin Jones Jr. I think he is going to have
the Jaguars
a big year on the Jaguars, man. I think he's easily their number one. DJ Chark is injured too much. He's not consistent at all. Shenault, I actually do like Shenault this year as a young sleeper if you're looking like late rounds. But man, Marvin Jones, auction draft if you're doing it, boys. $2. I got him for $2. And look, man, if Trevor Lawrence has time in the pocket, which I know we don't know if that's going to happen. Every big throw that Lawrence has thrown down the field, not every throw, but the majority of them is going to Marvin Jones. He's a jump ball guy. We saw him and Stafford do it for a couple of years. He's a great wide receiver working with arguably one of the most talented young quarterbacks we've seen in a long time. So I think that if there's somebody he's going to build a rep with, Trevor, right off the bat, it's going to be Marvin Jones. They get to play the Texans twice a year. That's 2 big games alone that Marvin Jones is going to pop off on that he's going to perform. So I think if you're looking for a household name that if you're a fantasy guy, you're going to know who Marvin Jones Jr. is. I think he could have a nice year. But look, that's later rounds. We're talking sleeper pick here, probably beyond the Antonio Brown section that Andy was talking about. But man, I'm high on him this year. I think he's going to be good.
Yeah, he is.
Because they have a hell of a running game too. So you got to think that's going to help with opening up the passing game. And he loves those down the fields, man.
Yeah, I give it to you. Marvin Jones does get a lot of touchdowns. That's one thing. He has a knack of getting in the end zone, man.
Yep.
Like, no matter what bad team he's on, he always getting touchdowns. See, I remember those weeks. He always has those weeks. He just goes off.
Yep.
But, man, I'm going to throw in another late pick receiver, man.
Okay.
Corey Davis. Corey Davis. I feel like Zach Wilson, as a rookie, is going to rely on his go-to guy. His go-to guy that he's kind of – he already has chemistry with Corey Davis right now. And they paid Corey Davis. They paid Corey Davis a lot of money.
Yeah, they did.
A lot of money. And like Jamison Crowder, that ain't the dude. That's your
Elijah
guy,
Moore.
Man. Oh my Lord. Okay.
Elijah Moore.
Nah. Corey Davis.
I got him in Dynasty.
They paid Corey Davis to be the guy. He actually had a really nice year. He had a really nice year last year with the Titans. As a wide receiver to A.J. Brown, this guy almost was a couple yards away having 1,000-yard season. Just a couple yards away getting 1,000-yard season. He's going that from and that offense was a running offense with Derrick Henry getting a majority of the carries. So on the Jets, Who the hell's their running back? They're going to be chucking the football. They
Michael
drafted,
Carter.
Yeah, exactly. They're a rookie. So they're going to be chucking the football. And Corey Davis, the most talented receiver on the team. Zach Wilson, you can rely on him. He might be getting 9-10 targets a game.
Mm-hmm.
So just based on volume, and you get him in the hundreds, he could be a potential wide receiver too easy this year, man. Is Corey
Davis. If they
Davis.
can move the ball. That's the only thing is if they can move the ball.
Oh, man, they could be down the entire game. And some more targets for Corey Davis.
That's true.
They're going to be down. It'll be Zach Wilson, man, chucking the football, man. Their running game, I feel like, is going to be non-existent on that team. So I feel like Corey Davis will be the biggest benefactor with the new QB and being a bad football team. They're going to be chucking the football all the time.
Yeah. Let's just hope he doesn't get demoralized too quick. That's the only thing I'd be worried about with that team. Well, Zoo, I agree with you. I like Corey Davis this year. I think he could be a solid value pick. Him and Crowder. I mean, I wouldn't even consider Corey Davis really a sleeper, but maybe people are just completely brushing him off.
He's wide receiver 42 right now.
Yeah, no, and Zoo, I agree. I think he could easily finish. He could easily finish top 30. I think a good year for him would be top 25, especially with the team he's on and where you could be drafting him at. Right. Yeah, that's a good pick, Zoo. That's a solid sleeper. I might have to get that in our draft this coming weekend. But Zoo, I got one more for you. And we'd already talked about him. But I actually got Gio Bernard as a sleeper this year, man. I think, he's in a running back room with two big names, right? In the Bucs. He's coming off a championship team. He's going to be in a winning culture for the first time in his career. He's been with Cincinnati his entire career. This man is going to a team that targeted running backs out of the backfield 113 times. We all know how much Brady loves his little checkdowns. James White has created a career.
Rex Burkhead, all those little dudes, man.
And one of the best guys in the league behind James White at doing that is arguably Giovanni Bernard. So I think if you're trying to get just a depth running back, not necessarily a starter, but somebody you can fit in a bye week. And like you said, Zoo, if he gets, 6 catches a game, you're in PPR, he'll give you 15 to 20. So, he's a solid later round guy. But once again, it's a crowded room. I think he'll end up outplaying Leonard Fournette. We watched Fournette drop a lot of passes in the playoffs last year. He did pick it up there towards the end. But if they're looking, targeting your running backs 113 times without a true pass-catching running back, and now they have one, that offense just got, like you said, Sean, they just got even better, man. And it's just ridiculous. And I think he's going to end up getting more touches throughout the year than Leonard Fournette does. That's what I think is going to end up happening because he's getting a ton of praise out of Tampa right now with the coaching staff at how unbelievable he is in that offense. He's adjusting quickly.
Man, that's a good one. But but what's it called? My last sleeper? It's always a QB sleeper because one of these bad boys happen every single year, right? He's drafted in the hundreds. The year before he was pretty trash. But these quarterbacks just have those years they just pop off, and it's going to be so predictable. Last year was my man Josh Allen, who was on every one of my fantasy football teams. I was in like 3-4 leagues. He was on like 3 of them. So this year I'm going to try to get as many shares of this dude as possible. My man Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts on the Eagles, a bad football team, but he's taking over as QB1 now without Carson Wentz. They got him a Heisman guy in Devonta Smith as a weapon for him to throw it to. Miles Sanders is a decent running back, but Jalen Hurts will be the best running back on that football team. So Jalen Hurts doesn't have to be the most accurate quarterback in the world. He just got to use his legs and rush for 800 and 1,000 yards. 800 to 1,000 yards. Yep. Right. They're going to be relying on him. Yeah, he's going to be running, man. He's going to be running for dear life because his team will need it. And I feel like Jalen Hurts this year will easily be a top 5 quarterback. Top 5, baby.
That's
top
cool.
5 total fantasy points, even though in fantasy, he might be putting up top 5 fantasy points, but in real life, he ain't that good yet. Like, just unless he's like his skill wise on being a thrower becomes a lot better. His efficiency, like he's getting like 50% like completion percentage. Like he's just not that efficient yet. I don't even think that's great of a thrower yet. But fantasy wise, where it rewards running quarterbacks like the Lamar Jacksons of the world, the Josh Allens of the world, the Kyler Murrays of the world, I feel like Jalen Hurts is the next dude that you get pretty late. Like Jalen Hurts ain't going the first 9 rounds. Like, he ain't going the first 9 rounds. So if you're one of those guys that like taking QB late, Jalen Hurts. Like, you got an option between Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrows. Take Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
For rushing touchdowns alone, yeah, I agree with you.
You know what's interesting about Jalen Hurts too is last year I think Travis Fulgham was one of their leading receivers last year. He got cut, put to the practice squad. I keep telling you guys, here's a sleeper of mine. Quez Watkins.
Who?
Quez Watkins. He's a receiver, kick returner guy. Him, Jalen Reagor, Devonta Smith is going to be a nice, and I think Arcega-Whiteside. But Quez Watkins is one of those guys that he gets a couple of touches a game. He's going to find the end zone because his speed is that lethal. And I saw it against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was going crazy. But here's one receiver.
And real quick, Sean, he worked out with Calvin Ridley this summer, dude. That's who he worked with.
Wide receiver
Not
one.
a bad guy to be practicing.
Calvin Ridley.
Man,
He's going to have a freaking incredible season as being the true wide receiver one now.
And you know who's going to help the most? Who that's going to help the most? Kyle Pitts, dude. It's going to help Kyle Pitts a lot.
Where is he? Where is he for you? Tier 2, tier 3, Pitts?
He's like right below the big 3 in tight ends. I got him at the 4th, which I think most people do. You know, you got Travis Kelce, then Waller and Kittle, and then Pitts is just below it. But he's going to be a stud, man. He's going to be so good.
Crazy target.
But he's going way earlier than what you would consider a sleeper. But if you're looking to take a risk, it's a damn good one to take.
Here's a receiver, too, that I would take a flyer on in one of the later rounds. And you can't quote me on this because John Gruden said it. But he compared Brian Edwards to Terrell Owens. He said he's got that type of speed and he's got that type of power in and out of his breaks. Now, I know with Henry Ruggs, he's a good slot guy, and they have Darren Waller. But Brian Edwards is another one. And I may be a little biased because he went to the University of South Carolina. But he's been compared to Terrell Owens the entire mini camp and all that stuff. So that's another guy you can probably take a flyer on.
How many targets
6'3",
he's going to get? How many targets he's going to get, though? Darren Waller obviously is the go-to dude.
He's a go-to guy.
You mentioned Henry Ruggs is probably wide receiver, too. Like, he's going to be the 3rd option.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know, dude.
And Derek Carr ain't that good. Derek Carr ain't that good,
Give him a little credit, man. He ain't Mahomes or Herbert, but he give him a little credit, man.
Yeah, like, he's going to produce 3 fantasy. He's going to produce 3 fantasy receivers. I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think he'll get 2. I'm not big on Ruggs. I just think he's fast. I'm not. Big on him.
Yeah. He just runs straight real quickly. Yeah. But he ain't.
Who do you think is going to be the best rookie receiver?
Best rookie receiver.
Jalen Waddle's looking kind of good, even though
this draft class ain't like last year's draft class. No. Last year's draft class is legendary. Like this year, because like a lot of like
this is tough. I mean, do you think? I mean, Jamar Chase could have a good year.
Drops.
True.
Yeah, I don't like Jamar Chase that much, man. I don't think I'm gonna have any.
Maybe it'll be Elijah Moore.
Because I think Jamar Chase, like, he's on a team with like 2 other legit receivers.
Boyd and Higgins.
Yeah, exactly. And Boyd and Higgins, they were actually really productive last year for Joe Burrow. So, like, there's only so many receivers on Cincinnati. They're gonna have 3,000-yard guys. Nah, that ain't happening. So,
and Joe Mixon can catch out the backfield too.
Yeah, exactly. So Jamar Chase. Nah, I don't see that. So I don't know. I feel like I would say Devonta Smith, just based on he might be the number 1 option. So if he gets the targets, I feel like he could produce.
If Hurts can get him the ball.
That's really what it comes down to. That's a big wild card because he ain't a pure passer. So might be a little dicking and dunking into Devonta Smith, but yeah, I'm not high on any of the rookies that much this year because they're all going super late too. So
yeah, there's no like guarantee with them with this class, in my opinion. But if you're trying to take a shot, I would probably take a shot on Devonta Smith. And then maybe Jalen. That's probably what I'd do. And then if you're really trying to find one in like the 15th, 16th, you could probably get Elijah Moore at that point.
Did I mention DeAndre Swift at all?
I'm torn on him this year.
Lions, man. The Lions never produced fantasy running backs, man. I remember
Dan Campbell, though.
Kerryon Johnson. Like, it's just something about the Lions. They just don't produce fantasy running backs from the 8+ years of playing fantasy football. I never remember the Lions being good at anything. Like
besides
Kenny Galladay.
They got stud receivers,
Marvin
Kelvin
Jones.
Johnsons and Kenny Galladay. Marvin Jones was a nice receiver, but at the running back position, and now with a lesser quarterback in Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't know.
A lot of checkdowns, though. A lot of checkdowns.
TJ Hawkinson, sleeper.
He could be a sleeper. I
Hey,
agree.
I made that mistake. I took
end,
Noah
man.
Fant. I took Noah Fant last year over him. That was a mistake.
TJ Hawkinson, he might be the number one receiver on the team now without
Yeah.
like Marvin
Definitely.
Jones being on the team anymore.
And Galladay, yeah.
And Galladay. So TJ Hawkinson might be getting the most targets. That's
Him, Swift,
interesting.
and Jamal Williams. Those are the only 3 guys they have on their team.
That's an awful team.
Yeah, that's all they got, man. I mean, it's sad, but look, man, they should have traded up and picked one of those receivers.
Facts.
I don't know, man. That's a sorry for. I mean, look, Swift can catch the ball out of the backfield too. I mean, he's a stud. He's good. They just don't have the O line that you can guarantee he's going to have, 1,100-yard rushing season, something like that. But look, man, if the David Montgomerys of the world can rush for 1,000 yards in like 12 games with a horrible offensive line, I think DeAndre Swift can perform well enough to put him in your starting lineup in fantasy. He's probably more of a flex guy, maybe fringe RB2 if he has a nice season.
Yeah.
But I'd probably pick him around like your 3rd running back mark. That's probably what I'd do. Unless you're going to try and you take a stud tight end. That's really the only time that you kind of screw yourself out of either a good wide receiver 2 or a good running back 2 is if you take like a Kelsey or a Darren Waller. That would be the only situation where I would have DeAndre Swift as my second running back. That's really it. If I have a Travis Kelsey on my team as well, along with another stud RB.
We didn't mention Keenan Allen.
I think he's a guarantee with Herbert.
He's going pretty much where I expect him to go. He's
Exactly.
He's like a 3rd-round guy. He's like a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. He's like pretty consistent, especially PPR. Like he gets a lot of catches. Like
ton of targets.
Gets 1,000 yards.
Him or D-Hop?
D-Hop easily.
D-Hop.
Is Kyler? Or
Yeah, D-Hop's been a top 10 receiver for the last like half decade.
yeah.
With Herbert taking another step though, I'm interested to see how well they do. Because Keenan already gets a ton of targets, man. He's one of the most targeted guys in the NFL. That's for sure. And you love your targets, Zoo. And you've had Keenan Allen before. He's been good if he can stay healthy. That's really what it comes down to for him. It's pretty much most of the NFL.
Last receiver, Terry McLaurin for the Redskins.
I
had him last year.
I like him a lot.
He's going 3rd round this year. I think it's accurately valued of what his production is going to be this year.
Yeah, and I think some people are still hesitant to take him just because you still can't really pin a consistent quarterback on that team. So if he falls to the 4th round, swoop him definitely because he's easily wide receiver 1. Their second best weapon is Curtis Samuel, and then they got Logan Thomas, who's a sleeper tight end.
Logan Thomas. He's always hurt, but Logan Thomas.
Sleeper tight end. I had him last year. He did nice things for me, man. He was really good.
Can we switch to defense? I mean, these are pretty self-explanatory, but
yeah. I mean,
it's Rams.
Washington,
for me, I got Rams and Steelers in the first
Washington football team is probably 3rd.
Yeah.
That's a good value. I would probably take them. Don't touch the Cowboys. I think everybody knows that.
Facts.
I mean, defenses are tough, man, because there always ends up being one that Zoo's not a big drafting defense guy.
Defenses are irrelevant, man. This is the strategy, man.
Not Rams. There's always one.
There's always one, but what are the odds of you picking the right one that gets all the special team touchdowns? I
always pick Seattle Legion of Boom, and it paid off for me. There's always one. Bears for a couple years.
You're not going to get the one. That's a 10% chance. I give you less than a 10% chance of picking the one. This is what you do. You locate the bad football teams, and you just pick on them. Pick on them. Like historically in the past, like I picked on the Jaguars, picking on the Jets, picking on the Miami Dolphins. You just pick on the terrible teams. Exactly. And this year, I'm picking on the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans and the Cincinnati Bengals. Those two teams, I think, will be really, really bad this year. And who knows, it might be another sleeper bad team. But whoever looking like trash, I'm going to pick the defense against the trash team. And I'm going to
against the Lions, too.
The Lions, it gives you a high floor in fantasy points on defense. So
that's true.
That's my strategy every single. That's my strategy every single year.
Those are the two. You play week to week and you pick on the bad teams, or you attempt to pick one of the studs. And I think there's really only 3 that are worth going out of your way to draft. And Sean, you mentioned 2 of them, and then I think Washington's probably the one that you could get latest and have them pay off equally as well as the other 2. So if you're looking to actually draft one and call it the 11th, 12th round, the other 2 are probably going to be gone by that point. If you can snag the Washington one, that's probably your best value if you're trying to actually spend a draft pick for them. Otherwise, would definitely recommend what Zoo does, because hell, you could even pick like the Colts, Andy, right? And they play the Jaguars and the Texans. That's 4 games right there.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Right? Yeah. So you need to think about that, right? You could also argue that. So you have to think about that.
Texans twice.
Well, and then Andy, think about this. Washington, look at the division they're playing. They do have to play the Cowboys twice, but they've given the Cowboys troubles in the past. But they also get to play a young guy in the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, right? And then they get to play Mr. Questionable Daniel Jones twice a year. So if you think about the divisions, that's how I draft defenses.
Man, I didn't even think about that. You get some free dubs with the Jags and the Texans, 2 of the worst teams in football. That's a good one.
And the Colts they already have a good defense, so they still will pay off for you in other games. So I don't know. I probably shouldn't have given you that pointer, Zoo. But
I like that a lot, man. Pick on the Jags and the Texans, man. That's a good one. I'm going to keep that as a mental note. I didn't even think about that.
I thought you were going to say you're going to beat me to it. Yeah, there's a little advice on defenses. I'm a drafted defense kind of guy, as you can tell.
Oh, yeah, man. You always take your defense 8th, 9th round, man.
No, I go 10th now. 10th
you go 10th round now?
That's a little too early.
Is a kicker worth drafting? Justin Tucker?
Oh, absolutely.
My boy Justin Tucker or Harrison Tucker, baby.
Mm-mm. Go with Younghoe Koo, man.
Ooh,
100%. Or Greg Zuerlein, because the Cowboys are going to score a ton.
Yeah, those are 2 solid picks.
And Tucker will never miss. So.
Oh, and I want to give a shout out and rest in peace to my man J.K. Dobbins, who was going to be my sleeper pick until his knee injury. Such a shame. He was my favorite pick. He was my favorite pick in the 3rd round. I think he gives you RB1 value at an RB2 price. And with him gone, I had to adjust my draft strategy and all my drafts, because I was thinking about drafting J.K. Dobbins in every single one of my drafts this year. And now Gus Edwards is in. He's just not the same talent level, even though he's going to get all the opportunity in the world. So
he's a good running back, though.
They paid him
last year.
They paid him $10 million over 2 years, so $5 million per year. That's pretty good money for a running back position. But man, J.K. Dobbins has the ability to catch the football and run it. So such a shame, man. In a preseason game.
Yeah, and they reduced the preseason to 3 games this year too. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's tough. Hey, another sleeper. I just thought of this guy. Hold on. Let me see what his name is. Well, Jameis is a quarterback sleeper.
Here today, Jameis Winston.
I think he's a quarterback sleeper. But there's a running back
risks, Zoo.
Yeah, and
they're gonna score.
Sony Michel's another running back.
Oh, okay.
Cam Akers. I think Sean McVay is gonna. Todd Gurley hasn't gotten a call. That's crazy. He used to play for the Rams.
Will take him.
God, no, man. Maybe the Ravens. I don't know. They gotta. He needs to be on the team though.
That'd be a hell of a move if the Ravens signed him.
This is crazy. Todd Gurley and Le'Veon Bell are out the league.
Didn't know about Le'Veon
already.
And these guys were unbelievable, consensus top
First
5
round.
picks 2 years ago.
Not Le'Veon. Not that long.
Yeah.
Not that short ago.
Le'Veon Bell 2 years ago was a consensus top 10 overall pick, even on the Jets. He should have been, but he was by the rankings. Yeah, he was projected as a top 10 pick. It is crazy that these running backs, man. Todd Gurley only played 6 years in the NFL.
Yeah, it's his second contract.
Double the average length.
Yeah, he even hit age 30. Wow.
But I ain't gonna lie. If I can get to my second contract as a running back, I'm good.
Yeah.
If I'm out the league, I'm out the league.
Most are out in 2 to 3.
Yeah.
As you said, Kerryon Johnson, prime example. They hiked him up in Detroit, man, and he just choked.
Yeah, man.
So I don't know that Rams backfield is going to be interesting to watch, because I think a lot of people are taking Darrell Henderson before anybody else in that backfield.
Touchdown.
Darrell,
because he's a touchdown machine.
because Sean McVay offenses like Todd Gurley got 12 touchdowns, 17 touchdowns, 13 touchdowns in our offense. So those touches are going to go to someone at the goal line. So Darrell Henderson or Sony Michel, I think Sony Michel it's like a LeGarrette Blount type of dude. So like at the 1 yard line, just stuff it in there. More Darrell Henderson is more finesse, like he's the pass catching back. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that job, because whoever wins that job and gets the majority of the carries, he will be a productive asset in fantasy. And you can get them pretty late now, because ever since Sony Michel got picked up by the Rams, like Darrell Henderson's stock has dropped from like probably a 4th, 5th rounder now to like a 7th, 8th rounders now. Yeah. So depending on who wins the job, that's a potential value running back you get later on as a potential hype potential.
With such a good team, having that much uncertainty in that backfield is going to be interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it for the sleepers for me. Zach Ertz is another guy, tight end.
Yeah, you get him last. You get him last in the fantasy draft, man. You legit get him as your last pick. And Zach Ertz was originally one of the top 3 tight ends. I remember it was like him, Kittle, and Travis Kelce. So
before Waller. Yep.
Yeah, before Waller came out of nowhere. Like that dude was a free agent.
You know they said he was on the Ravens. You know he was on the Ravens at one point.
Darren Waller.
Mm-hmm. They said he had to leave Baltimore because he was struggling with stuff. I heard that today on Undisputed.
Wow.
I never knew that.
Could have used
he's doing great now.
Man.
I mean, they got Mark Andrews, so I guess they're fine.
Yeah, they're chilling.
But that's it for all the sleeper picks, for all the number 1 guys. Maybe there might be some more drafts Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Who knows? So you got this is actually going live on my YouTube channel. We had to switch up the Slack today so we can get some new content out for you guys. But as usual, make sure you guys subscribe to bullheaded_pod. We put great content up every day with the NFL season coming around, college football season. I will be putting out more football reels and more football content, so make sure you guys tune into that. Make sure you guys subscribe to Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, the whole 9.